Hello, dear friends, and welcome back to this next installment along our Gene Keys journey. In this video, we are going to look at and contemplate the sphere of our life's work. This is a good one. This is the top sphere on your Gene Keys profile, so it's the very first one. It's also the last one. So if you go all the way through the activation sequence, which leads you to the Venus sequence, and that leads you to the Pearl sequence, the last little nubbin on your Gene Keys profile is again the life's work. So we begin here and we end here. Every time we go through the profile and come back into our life's work, we do so at a higher octave. So essentially, the life's work is where your deeper purpose, like that bottom, the bottom sphere on your profile, where your deeper purpose meets the outside world. So if you'll remember back to our pathway of challenge conversation, the life's work represents the life's work is the astrology sun sign that you were born with. And that light that you came here to shine, that is kind of how you express in the outer world. But you'll notice the nod to this deeper purpose, like that life's work, that's kind of what it amounts to. That's what's being done, but that's not the engine that's driving this whole process. To understand that, we got to get all the way through the activation sequence down to the purpose. So for right now, suffice it to say that like when we are contemplating the life's work, we're looking at the amalgamation of a lot of different things that are happening under the surface. So this one, as we contemplate it, and honestly, this probably isn't bad advice for any of them, hold it lightly, because I think this one more than others really demonstrates how they're all so linked. And until we're really living out of kind of our entire chart, our life's work can be hard to find, can be hard to recognize in ourselves. So the shadow of our life's work is a special one. This is a shadow that is basically riding shotgun with you your entire life, for better or for worse. There's no divorcing it. It's your ride or die. And you will meet it over and over and over and over until you learn how to accept it. And the whole point of all the shadows is that first we're able to allow them, meaning we stop fighting against it even being true. You know, like my shadow of my life's work is vanity, and trying to not be vain is not the point. It's like, that's just disavowing who you naturally are. That's like self-rejection right there, first thing. So first we have to allow. We have to allow, like in my case, like I have to allow that like I'm a vain person. I care about myself a good deal. And I care about that deeply. So like allowing the shadow to exist is step number one, kind of with any of them. And as we are allowing it, as we're practicing allowing it, acceptance begins to form naturally in that space of allowing it to be. Then we can accept it. And once we've accepted it, hopefully we can embrace it. We can embrace it for the beauty that it is. We can embrace it for the gift that's coming out of that shadow. Every shadow contains a gift. This is a process of figuring out how to accept the unacceptable part of yourself. That takes unconditional love. It takes letting yourself off the hook in a big, big way. And embracing that shadow opens our heart to our life's primary challenge. The life's work sphere is the beginning of that pathway of challenge. So as we work with that shadow on our life's work, as we work to embrace and transmute that shadow inside of ourselves, that's really what lets us make our way across the pathway of challenge. And so you think like, oh, I'm doing my life's work, I'm transmuting the shadow, it's gonna like rain blessings all on me. And it is, but you gotta go with me on the whole idea that like challenges are blessings, blessings are challenges. Like this is the same thing. So as it's raining blessings down on you, they're gonna look like challenges. And so challenges coming mean you're ready to go to the next part. You're ready to get the next gift. Here's the next challenge. You're ready for the next gift. It's exciting. And so embracing this shadow lets us be excited about that pathway of challenge. Every shadow contains a gift. So the gift that's coming out of your life's work shadow is, since this is your primary challenge, since this is kind of your primary shadow, this is the gift that just keeps on giving. So like, it's like you're like a factory for this gift, because you'll spin in the shadow of it your whole life, and every time you make a lap around that shadow, another gift pops out. And then another gift pops out. And so you're just like a fountain of this gift into the world. And doesn't that remind you of the sun sign in astrology being like, this is the divine light that you came here to shine. This is the gift that you can't help but generate. Because you can't ever shake off this shadow, you'll just keep giving this gift to the world. It's beautiful. It truly is, if we can go that way and we can see it like that. I'm curious if that would be a question that would be part of our contemplation, is like, can we see that? Can we see that every shadow contains a gift, and every time we loop back through our own darkness, we bring out a whole nother piece of our light? It's beautiful, the darkness and the light, and the way one gives birth to the next, and the way that works, the way that it just constantly feeds into the next. It's like, when you're in darkness, light is inevitable. Like, you will eventually find light inside of darkness. And when your whole world is consumed in light, it's like you're ready to level up. The next dark cloud comes over, and now you're ready to find the light inside of that one. And so it is an eternal cycle of growth and evolution. It is so beautiful and delicious. I can't even get over it. The city. So the city, in this case especially, I think is super, super duper helpful for understanding and being able to meet our shadow, which is to say, to be able to meet our challenges with a little bit more grace, is to kind of put them, I'm seeing like a rattle, where like on one end is the shadow and on the other end is the city. It's like, if you, like in my case, for example, the shadow is vanity and the city is purity. So like, you can't have purity without vanity, and you can't have vanity without purity. So like, they go together. They're the same thing. And so again, every time you loop inside your shadow, bring them both into that contemplation. It's never just your shadow. It's the next little bit of that city, that essence of your life's work wanting to be realized out into the world. It's like, every time I beat up on myself inside my vanity, that is the next little bit of my own purity being born inside that moment. So there's just this broader view with which to see the inner workings of these pieces that, in my experience, it feels like a huge relief. And in my world, that means it's true. So that's where I'm coming from as far as going along on this path, and will continue to go along on that path. But again, this is all for the purpose of your contemplation. It's not about taking my beliefs and making them yours, unless of course they resonate and they relax you and you believe that they're true for yourself. So these are my ideas and my delicious perspective around how our life's work actually comes to be. And I purely 100% believe that it comes from wrestling with our shadow. So since this is the first time that we have talked about the lines, we'll go through the lines on every single sphere. But in general, the 6 lines, kind of going back to the numerology of these numbers 1 through 6, like the 6 lines themselves have general themes where no matter which sphere we're talking about, they each have a really consistent theme. So line 1 discovers it. Line 1 is kind of like a base level foundation, like the bottom of the bottom of the bottom base level foundation of understanding. Like, there is nothing more foundational than a number 1. And the potential inside of that is that they can be the smartest people ever. And the reason for that is because they're like a dog on a bone, and they don't stop digging until they reach the bottom. Until they understand it, they're not satisfied. And so you imagine, like at the beginning of a line 1, there's nothing but uncertainty. There's nothing but unexplored territory. Like that's almost maddening because there's just so many things to understand. So it can almost be overwhelming. But on the flip side, like if you just keep digging, just keep digging, just keep digging, you have the potential to be one of the smartest people on the planet, especially at the subjects that you devote yourself to getting to the bottom of. Because again, we have limited time, so you're not going to be able to establish that level of a foundation with every single thing. You'll have to be really deliberate about what is worth digging into to that degree. Line 2 expresses it. So line 2 is very fluid and very expressive, very like unself-conscious, like just being, pure being. And because of that, they have the potential to be the most beautiful. And that is because I think at the core of all of us is beauty. At the core of all of us is love. At the core of all of us is source energy, like an extension of God itself. So if any of us, right, we all have line 2s probably somewhere in our Gene Keys profile, maybe not on the rare exception, but like any line 2 energy that we have is pushing us towards being less self-conscious. And if any of us was totally unself-conscious and only expressed the core of what's in there, I think the core of all of us is love. So the most beautiful, line 2. Line 3 experiments with and adapts it. So line 1 discovers it, line 2 expresses it, line 3 is like, I'm bored, what else can we make out of this thing? And starts experimenting and adapting, and what if we did this, and what about this, and what about this? And that means that they have the potential to be the most exciting, just because there's the most going on. Like a line 3 energy just has more balls in the air than your average person. So if you have a lot of line 3s, or if you have a line 3 in your life's work in this example, that is going to just mean that there's a lot more moving parts and pieces to your life's work than if you had one of the other numbers on there. Line 4 spreads it. So line 4 is a connector, and because of that, they have the potential to be the most approachable. That said, line 4 is an interesting mix because line 4 is this balance between you really, really do work best and you have like this deep-seated desire for your own company, like to be inside your inner world, and at the same time there's like this heart of service that wants to connect with other people. And so that ends up being kind of the great challenge of a line 4's life, is like how to be both of those things when you want to be away by yourself but you also want to serve the other people. As you can see, like that's quite a dance to learn how to do. Line 5 optimizes it. So line 5 has this really amazing gift to be able to look at something and have this knack for knowing what's real and what's really going to work, and they automatically beeline towards those most effective, most efficient options. And if they look at something and it's like they're full of shit, that's like total bullshit, they give it not 1 second more thought and they go off on their way looking for something that will work. And then the line 5 carries with it this massive attraction field that we're going to get into more as we go through like each of the spheres. But those line 5 energies have the potential to be the most successful a lot because of that attraction field can pull the right pieces, the effective, efficient pieces. It's like they just get magnetized to you. And so you become this magnet, this like finder of all the great things, and it's really powerful. So that gives you a lot of potential to be successful. And last but not least, line 6 explains it. So like he says in the book, which by the way, this is the book that I'm teaching out of. It is the Gene Keys Golden Path, the Genius book. It's where we go through the activation sequence. So each of the sequences I'll teach out of its book that Richard Rudd did. And so how he says it in the book is that line 1 kind of gets to the bottom of it and figures it out, and then line 6 writes the autobiography of it. So line 6 is something kind of like of like a completion energy where it kind of has a piece of all of the lines inside of it, and a line 6 energy kind of has to work through all of the different steps of all the different lines before it's able to get to its line 6 destiny and fulfill its line 6 destiny of explaining it. You can't explain something you don't understand. And so it as a result of all of this, though, it has the potential to see the farthest. It has kind of like the most comprehensive view out of all the lines, naturally, because it's kind of taking in bits and pieces of all the lines. And so the line 6 consistently has a theme as well of taking a long time. Like, it kind of reminds me of Saturn, as far as like it takes a long time for line 6 energy to unfold, because there's so much to learn, there's so much to understand before you can start explaining. So next we'll specifically get into the 6 lines of our life's work. So every time we interpret a different sphere on the Gene Keys profile, the meaning of the lines changes slightly. So all of what we just laid down is kind of like the overarching big picture themes of each of the 6 lines. And now here we're interpreting those 6 lines specific to if you have them on your life's work. So going back to the bubble, the sphere of your life's work, it has a number and then a decimal and then a number 1 through 6 after the decimal. So whatever the number after the decimal, that is the line of your life's work. So for example, if it's 25.1, then you have a line 1 life's work. Let's say it's 24.2. That's a line 2 life's work, and so on. So that number after the decimal, that's specifically what we're talking about here. And so I'm gonna go through and talk through all 6 of the lines, but how you would use this is, again, for your own contemplation. Like, as we understand the life's work being kind of how do we emanate this gift that we came to share out into the world, the line can put a little bit more context for us specifically, along with contemplating the gene key that is our life's work. The line kind of adds even more flavor on top of the gene key. So for example, you could have, 6 different people who all have a life's work number 12, but 12.1, 12.2, 12.3, all the way through 12.6, they all have a slightly different flavor. So it kind of including the line in your contemplation makes it that much more unique to you. And so let's talk through each of the lines and what they mean on the life's work sphere. So line 1 is called the creator, and that very simply means you are here to create something new. You have an idea inside your DNA that this world needs. No pressure. We're all counting on you. And so that doesn't mean that you can't take support from others, or that you can't talk to others as sounding boards or do research or any of those kinds of things. It does mean, though, that the answer is not going to come through the research. While that may give you some of the raw ingredients that come into your process, the answer, the idea that you're here to create, is always coming from inside of you. Line 2 is called the dancer. So this is all about self-expression, all about our relationship with self-consciousness. So self-consciousness meaning, are you allowing yourself to express freely, or are you holding yourself back? It's as simple as that. And the self-consciousness, our relationship with it, if we're holding ourselves back, we're not allowing ourselves to flow as freely as we could be. And if we're able to transcend self-consciousness, now we have the option of being lost in the creative flow, lost in the joy of getting to create inside that moment. It's like time falls away and everybody else stops mattering and you're just inside the flow. That's the dancer. Line 3 is the changer, and this energy is inherently unstable. And I apologize for the negative connotation around that word. Kind of on behalf of society, I apologize for there being a negative connotation on the word unstable. It's not necessary that it have a negative connotation. In fact, instability is quite neutral. It's a tool like anything else. And when you have a line 3 life's work, instability is actually your friend. It's one of those things that is like a challenge that's unique to your life's work, where things are going to change a lot frequently. You know, as soon as you get stable, just know the change is coming. As soon as you get it figured out at the level you're at, just know the change is coming. And the more we can embrace those changes, the smoother the journey will be, because nobody says an unstable journey has to be a rough one. It actually doesn't. If we're graceful about change, if we allow change instead of fighting against it, even though we may be all over the place with the changes happening in our lives, we may still be having a really blissful journey. And to do that, it really does require that a line 3 life's work let go of what's normal. So like, there is no normal, especially when it comes to a line 3 life's work. You're here to put the pieces together in a way that only you can do. So that brings us to the line 4, the server. And this is again where we see that heart of service of the line 4. There is an incredible capacity with a line 4 life's work for conviction. So meaning to believe in what you're doing, to believe that you have something of value that you want to give to the world. And that belief can actually, again, be your friend. It can drive you getting to do your life's work and drive you dancing with that shadow as many times as it takes to be able to serve in an even more complete way, in an even more complete way, in an even more complete way. Every time you meet your shadow, it's the next layer of service being born from within you. So line 5 is the fixer, and the line 5 life's work has a keen insight into what will really help the world. So again, the line 5 just has a way of knowing, like, that's full of shit, that's real. That is something that is actually going to help, that's effective, that has legs, that stands up. Like, yes, I vote for this one. And when the line 5 finds something that works, the line 5's best bet is to share it with the world, because the line 5 is kind of something of like a beacon, something of like like I just got a good visual of like a metal detector, of like the line 5 person is the metal detector. And the little nuggets of wisdom are the metal. And when the line 5 goes over, it's like beep, 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 beep. Yes, this. Line 5, get this up out and show it to the world. And then keep on going and find the next one. And then show it to the world. And then keep on going and find the next one. And then show it to the world. The line 5 is incredibly powerful. And the fixer, I mean, this is for your contemplation, right? So if you're a line 5 life's work, you contemplate your relationship with that word. But what comes through for me is like, it's not that you're here to fix broken things. It's more like you're here to fix helpful things into the world, like a fix. Like you're a fixer. Like you take something that's helpful and good and you make it real and solid and permanent inside the world. And then you move on and you find the next one and you make it real, solid, and permanent in the world. You affix helpful things into the world. That was one thought that came through for me. And then the line 6 is the teacher. So same as, you know, every time you see a line 6, like there's just something a little bit different going on with the line 6, because it does include a little bit of all the lines. The question why is at the heart of the 6th line, kind of in general. And when you have a 6th line life's work, it's like your entire life revolves around this question of why. Why does the world exist? Why am I here? Why are you here? Why is this? Why is this? That's a lot. Again, same as the line 1, like it's a lot of unanswered whys. And so same thing, the line 6 takes patience, because to see through the eyes of wisdom means looking back on your life. And basically another way to say that is wisdom is being able to see the meaning in things. And when we initially look at something that we've never seen before, our first question is why? And as we move through that experience and then we are looking back on it later, then we can see the meaning of why we lived that exact experience at that time. And so wisdom only emerges later. So again, it takes patience because there's so much life to live before the line 6 can become a teacher and start explaining what it knows. It has to first learn a lot. And so, yes, the art of contemplation takes time, but it always yields an answer. So the teacher will always eventually have something to explain, something, and maybe not even so much explain, depending on kind of the rest of your profile and the exact gene keys that you have lit up there, but something that you want to model. Something that feels so critically important that you want to devote your life to teaching it to others. And that might be you're making videos about the gene keys because you want more people to contemplate them. I'm a line 6, by the way. Or possibly you embody something that a way of life. You live by your values, you live by your beliefs, and through that embodiment, you teach something just in the terms of the choices that you're making. So that completes this first sphere on the pathway of challenge. This is the first step. Transforming the shadow of our life's work is the first step to opening up this pathway of challenge and really contemplating our life's work, the line, the shadow, the gift, the city, all of that. There's so much yummy bites to chew in just this one sphere. So I will leave you with that. And when we come back next time, we will cover the evolution. Until next time, you take such good care, and I'll see you on the next one.